Genetics of the strongest possible human. 1 in 10 quadrillion. I don't even know what that is.
What are the limits of human strength, and what does that limit look like?
Half Thor Julius Bjornsson. Do you think there's ever going to be, there has to be, do you think there's a limit that we're going to hit where, like, world records just cease to be broken? Like the Usain Bolts and Half Thor Bjornssons that break the deadlift world record and the 100-meter, it's just all fucking washed. You know, like maybe once every 30 years some guy beats it, but like the 100-meter would be beaten by like 0.01, 0.02, you know, which is still big in like the 100-meter sense, especially world record-wise. But like I feel like there's going to be a full cap. Like, eventually people will stop being as strong or as powerful as they previously were. But, like, I genuinely believe, like, Half Thor is, like, a limit to, like, strength, at least. It's, like, 7 feet tall, 400 pounds. I'm like, how much bigger can you get as a person?
Strength means a lot of things to a lot of different people. To an arm wrestler, it looks like this. To a powerlifter, it looks like this. And in China, it might even look like this.
Was that a guy swinging something from his nutsack?
So to make sure that we're all on the same page, let's go ahead and narrow it down. We're going to use the sport of strongman, which is arguably the most well-rounded strength sport in existence. We're going to look at the absolute genetic limits of human performance and ask what is required to push those limits forward. And in the process, we're going...
I always wonder if, like, a lot of those pro athletes specifically try to, like... I don't want to use the word mate, but like have kids with somebody that's also like a genetic, like, I don't want to say freak either, but like somebody that's, you know, just a monster of their sport. Like, because you see a lot of these, no, genuinely, you see a lot of these strongmen and they're like 7 feet tall, 400 pounds. And like they could most definitely have a kid that's way stronger than them. But I feel like they kind of 50-50 their odds. Because, like, all of those top strongmen marry, like, 4'10", like non in the sports women.
Push those limits forward. And in the process, we're going to build the perfect strongman.
That's what Yao Ming did. What, he, like, purposely wanted to have a kid with somebody that he thought would be able to, like, combine with his genetics to make somebody that's, like, a super athlete. I feel like that's a little weird, though, you know? Like, I kind of respect the... just going off of love more because you're Brian, you're fucking, oh my God, not Brian, what is his name? Brian Shaw. You're Brian Shaw, you know, it's like fucked up if you're Brian Shaw's kid and they're like, yeah, we don't actually love each other. We just wanted to have a fucking sports monster. And that's you. You're not supposed to do anything in your life outside of lift big rock. Because that's what we made. That's what we did. We wanted crazy genetics for... No, like, that's fucked. But that's what you would have to do to have somebody that's, like, the peak in genetics.
Now, we all think of muscle as the biggest and most important aspect of strength, and while it is certainly important, your frame is going to determine what your baseline potential is. It determines how much muscle you can hold and how efficient you're going to be when you actually go to use it. If you take a squat or a bench press, the most optimized build is going to be the ever sought after Chad Dachshund build. Most of your height is going to be in your torso.
Yeah, I felt like the best bench build is to have really short arms where your bench is just like, and that's like a full rep.
Most of your height is going to be in your torsos, and your legs are going to look like little malformed nubs. Now,
what the fuck?
Hyper-optimized Hobbit builds have broken the sports of powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting. This actually isn't very useful in day-to-day life. It turns out that the perfect strongman build is going to be two things. Tall.
Just big as fuck. That's what... Is there actually a perfect strongman build? I feel like it's just... Be like 7 feet tall and 450 pounds.
And apey. Tall because it's...
Tall and apey. Tall and apey, like big, like long arms. Like they're tall and also have very long limbs.
Easier to load to high platforms when the platform is at your belly button. It also gives you a longer stride for moving events and it potentiates more mass. I know many of you are already feverishly typing pound for pound in the comments, but stop and think for a minute. If you had to ride a bird, you wouldn't pass up the ostrich because a roadrunner has a higher DOT score. We're talking about limits, and that means maxing out the things that push those limits further, and with strength, that means being big. Capiche? So those prototypes in Strongman have already existed with Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, Tom Stoltman, all men that are 6'8" or taller and weigh on the order of 200 kilos at their peak. Now, height is distributed
200 fucking kilograms, chat. You can't get bigger than that and reasonably be able to fill that frame. You know what I mean? Like, genetics of the strongest possible human. When you see guys that are like above 7 feet, like NBA players, even ones that are bigger, like a lot of the time they don't fill out because they're more lanky because they're just fucking so tall. And even when you're like this big, dude, everyday life, like, yeah, you could have the genetically strongest possible human there. They're not going to be able to fucking do anything. They can't fit in cars. They can't go on planes. They can't fucking fit through door frames. Everything needs to be custom built. They have to order their shoes online from a fucking factory directly where they're going to have some guy fucking sew his shoes for him. Wemby is he's not like lanky how other NBA players are. How old is Victor Wembanyama? Or not old, tall. 7'4". He's big. Like, honestly, chat, he's thin, but he's like pretty jacked for somebody of his height. Like, but that's what I'm saying. This guy's 7'4". He would never be 450 pounds. Like, he has the tall, thin build. He's not 7'4", he's 7'7". It said he was 7'4". Is he really 7'7"? No, it says he's 7'4". He's not officially 7'7". He's officially set as 7'4" for the San Antonio Spurs. Anyways, either way, like, when you're above 7 feet tall, like, you just can't fill out your body. It's hard. Even if, I mean, these guys are on fucking copious amounts of steroids. So, you know, you could put that into part of the process. But
a bell curve.
He's still growing. Does he have Marfan syndrome?
In the population, there are going to be a lot of people centered around the average global height of 5'7.5" for men. And every inch increase in height becomes exponentially more rare. Be sure to remember this in the event that you see my wife on the street so that you can remind her that her husband is in fact a tall man. The physical stature of the giants and strongman is very rare indeed. 6'9" is estimated to be 1 in 50,000 people. And to push that limit a bit,
7'1" is 1 in hundreds of millions. That's why I always love the statistic that if you know somebody that's 7 feet tall, there's like a 1 in 10 chance they're in the NBA right now. Not even like a previous NBA player. If you know somebody that's 7 feet tall, there's like literally a 10% chance they're currently in the NBA, like playing in the NBA.
If you're 7 feet, you're looking at 1 in 10 million. So if you're mapping out the genetic blueprint of this perfect strongman, you might just look at the pituitary gland and think, I'm just going to supercharge that sucker. We're going to infuse all of the gigantism that we can into this specimen. This fetus is going to be flooded with...
But there's a level of mobility reduction to where they're not going to be able to lift things either. Like, you still need some level of speed and agility for strongmen and strength in general. Like, when you see guys that are over like 7'5" run, dude, it's like watching literally a stick figure try to like sprint. Like, they can't cut like most people do. And that's why there's so much coaching for like Wembanyama. He has so much coaching for mobility and how he's able to move. That's why he's such a good player, because most guys that are his height can't move the way he does.
More growth hormone than a deceased IFBB pro, and we're going to make sure this thing makes Andre the Giant look like a pipsqueak. Now, there is a problem with taking these genetic shortcuts. The flood of hormones that results in this egregious amount of growth tends to lead to wonky bone growth, leading to things like scoliosis. You end up with nerve problems from the bones impeding on the actual nerves and blood vessels. And even though the muscles themselves are technically bigger, they're not structurally sound. The flood of hormones can actually lead to something called acromegalic myopathy, and it's muscle weakness due to the growth hormone induced metabolic and structural changes. And it's actually not uncommon for changes in joint mechanics to cause instability, especially in the knees, shoulders, and ankles. You got Andre the Giant, who is 7'4", was using braces and canes by his 30s. And colleagues in the WWF recalled that he could no longer lift opponents by the late 1980s, even though
he also, though, was an anomaly of a man that was that tall and also fucking jacked. Him and, who's the other guy that's really tall? He's in The Longest Yard, still alive. He wasn't jacked. Who am I thinking of? Also, yeah, he was. Yes, he was jacked. Jacked not meaning, like, ripped. Like, jacked meaning huge. Like, strong. Yeah, Great Khali was jacked. That's who I'm thinking of. Like, bro. This guy was fucking shredded. Actually, though. Great Khali is, like, more our era of WWE. He was a fucking monster, dude. Like, in a good way. Like, it fucking... Great Khali height. He's 7'1", and he was fucking height and weight in prime. He was 7'1" and 420 pounds.
He was a monster. And Andre wasn't even that tall. Consider Robert Wadlow, who was a record 8'11" tall. I mean, we're not even...
Wait, what? This guy was 9 feet tall? And he was able to walk?
Even in the human species anymore. He couldn't walk without leg braces, he had no sensation in his feet and lower legs, and he suffered repeated infections from the braces, which led to sepsis and his death at the age of 22. Okay, so...
Dude, he was 8'11" at 22 years old.
Maybe we should leave the pituitary gland alone. We can get a very tall person just by waiting for an extreme outlier in the general population. We've had a 7-footer represented in the World's Strongest Man winner pool in the form of Ted Vanderpart. We can also consider giants in the NBA like Shaquille O'Neal, who obviously had the capacity for incredible size and strength. Maybe one day more NBA players will wisen up, and instead of chasing silly things like $1 million contracts, they'll join...
Yeah, they'll start picking up rocks for fucking whey protein sponsors. They'll make one fucking thousandth of what they currently make if they just go, if they fucking ship off to Iceland and start fucking lifting stones.
Us in our makeshift strongman gym that our moms let us set up in the backyard. Now, short term, I do see the talent pool of strongman expanding to capture more people that are in this category. However,
honestly, they have to make strongman more mainstream, and that would make the records shatter. Like, I love watching strongmen, but I would say strongmen is not a mainstream sport. It's a worldwide sport, but it's like nobody watches strongmen. Like, there are people that do, but it's not something that's like, oh shit, there's a strongman competition. Like, I gotta take off to go fucking see that.
If we're going to consider man-made fiddling, then we have to consider that it's not an astonishing proposition that in the near future, tall parents are probably going to engage in some genetic selection to make sure that they have taller children. And we've already seen...
We were just talking about that.
Guys desperate to meet the unrealistic standards of women in the online dating pool go under surgery to crack their legs in half and extend...
Dumbest shit ever, too. Reduces mobility so much. It's like, I think the idea of like leg lengthening surgery is just such a stupid idea.
Bend them 3 to 6 inches to make them considerably taller. Given the enormous amount of PEDs that state-sponsored sports programs give their young athletes and the fact that they seem to have no qualms with playing God, there is no reason to think that in the near future we are not going to see young Chinese weightlifters in wheelchairs while their femurs heal in service of producing a master race of gold medalist Olympians.
I don't know. It's really the problem with like strongmen too is they have to take steroids. Like, if you're competing in the world's strongest man, you're not winning unless you are on steroids. Like, they're crazy strong to begin with. They would be guys that are deadlifting 700 pounds plus natural, right? Like, Hafthor Bjornsson is huge regardless. But for him to get big enough and strong enough to be somebody that's lifting 1,100 pounds, you have to. Why? Because it speeds up their growth, their recovery. It speeds up how much ATP they have and how much they can expenditure, their stamina, everything. Right? But it's going to kill them when they're younger. And you see this in guys like, this isn't really strongmen, but like Ronnie Coleman, for example, is like one of the most known bodybuilders of all time. Lifted like crazy, like, you know, you could argue the form and like back surgeries and everything, but he was like one of the biggest bodybuilders of all time. And like kind of cited as like one of the best, I guess, open pros that there were. He can't even fucking walk now. Like, so it's just like, it's hard to even get guys that have the natural potential to want to do this, because the downsides are like dying young, being paralyzed, like just for the straight up feat of, you know, lifting the heaviest weight. It's like hard to convince people to do that.
The average person, oddly enough, has an ape index of 1, meaning their reach is about the same as their height. But if you want...
Really? I would assume most people have longer... I have longer arms than my height. Like, my wingspan is probably like 2 inches more than how tall I am. NBA players are much longer
as their height. But if you want to be able to comfortably wrap around 400-pound sandbags and lock deadlifts out on your kneecaps, then you need a build that is actually more similar to swimmers, climbers, and MMA fighters. Michael Phelps is reported to have an ape index over 1.05. John Jones and heavyweight Sergey Pavlovich both have ape indexes that are on the order of 1.1. And at the far extreme, you have Stuart Jamieson, who deadlifted 286 at 60 kilograms. Because
286 at 60 kilograms. Why are his arms just extremely fucking long?
As is evident here, torsos just get in the way. Even if taller people tend to have a higher ape index, the odds that we get a 7-footer with a John Jones-like wingspan is...
Yeah, doesn't John Jones have like a 7-foot wingspan, but he's like 6'6"? No, John Jones is 6'4". John Jones wingspan. John Jones is 6'4" with a 7'1" wingspan. Oh my God. He could probably touch his kneecaps standing upright. He is 6'7". No, I don't think he is. It says he's 6'4".
Going to be about 1 in a billion. Now you might think that's a long shot until our doc here puts his online biomechanics degree to use. Now you might be crying, but what about my overhead press? In Strongman, that's not really much of a concern. Overhead pressing is 1 out of 5 to 7 events typically, and the biggest pressers in the sport haven't typically had very short arms. Hathor was actually one of the best pressers because sheer brute mass is such a big driver of pressing.
Oh yeah, his arms are longer. He has a bigger range of motion, but he also has more potential for muscle to be on his arms.
Strength more so than just leverages. And that brings us to the next important piece. We've got our frame. What about the materials? There is one mammoth of a mutation that gives immediately more muscle mass, more muscle fibers, and more strength to anybody who happens to possess it. When the MSTN gene is
3 balls. Oh.
Completely knocked out, you get 60 to 100% more muscle mass and 50 to 70% more absolute force production. Now, while we've seen this in mice, we've seen it in cattle, we've even seen it in breeds of dogs, it is extremely rare in people.
Oh my God. Is that a greyhound?
The one case study that we have is a child that was born in Germany in 2004.
Brother! I mean, thank fuck they blurred it, but still.
Okay, so far we've got selective breeding to guarantee our guy's going to be over 7 feet.
All right, so he's saying there's a mutation that you could have that increases muscle growth potential. Bro, that was like a fucking picture from the 1920s.
Tall. We got the limbs cracked and reset, and we genetically edited.
Yo, editor, fucking full blur that shit too. He blurred it, but I feel like you could have fucking blurred that so much more. I know he was trying to show the leg muscles, but still.
This freak so that they are just double muscled like crazy. Yeah, I think he's ready. Let's see what we
It's called the Hercules gene. Eddie has it.
got here. Oh no. Who could have saw that coming? I wonder if God also feels like he's in a permanent game of whack-a-mole. Grab some more duct tape, we're not done. You don't need genetic modification or a time machine to go back and swap out your parents in order to get jacked. You just need a proven training template and the means to personalize it to you.
Is this an ad?
If we want bones and tendons durable enough to handle the immense forces that we're going to put our boy under.
Was that an ad?
It's on autopilot. Forces that were
Fuck!
We want bones and tendons durable enough to handle the immense forces that we're going to put our boy under. We can't just crank up bone production. Just like with giantism and even PED use, the geometry of the tissues gets all messed up. So even though there's more of it, it's actually weaker. It's kind of like using more steel to build a bridge shittily. Now there's a handful of genes that can show improvement here.
That's what I do in polybridge. It works every time.
You have the COL5A1 rigid variant. You have the TNC variant, which shows enhanced adaptation under load. And you have the LOX variant that increases stiffness 20 to 30%. Now, since we're just picking genetic types like they're paint swatches at Home Depot, we might as well grab a few for insertion depth as well. The further down...
Bro, but here's the thing. Like, you ever made a guy like this? He's not going into Strongman. He's joining the fucking NFL. He's going to be a fucking O-lineman or a linebacker. He's going to be a fucking monster. And he's just going to hold fucking 4 guys back at once because he's going to be fucking 450, not even fat. You probably get him like 500 pounds plus. And he's just going to fucking stand there and they're not even going to be able to move him.
A tendon inserts, the greater leverage it has on that limb. So the same amount of muscular contraction is just going to lift more weight. But when you take that out to the extremes, the top 2 to 3% of the population, they may have a 40 to 50% difference in lever advantage. If you're looking at a freak of pound for pound strength and they don't have obvious leverage advantages on the lifts, it's highly likely that the advantages are hidden in tendon insertions. Apply this to the immense amount of mass that our boy's 7.5-foot frame is capable of holding, and we've got a recipe for some truly alien shit. But now we're at the point where we have to ask if the bones will even be able to handle this amount of force.
Yeah, he picks up a 2,000-pound weight and he just fucking he literally shatters his femur. His like entire body just collapses.
Normal cortical strength is 200 megapascals, and that's in an untrained couch potato. That means that your fat cousin's femur could support a small sedan before snapping.
What? An untrained person's femur could support the weight of a car?
Couch potato. That means that your fat cousin's femur could support a small sedan before snapping in half. To put this in perspective, Neanderthals were estimated to be at 1.8 grams per centimeter cubed in their bone density, which is 30 to 40% denser than elite human athletes. These estimations are higher than Brian Shaw's bone density, which was
yeah, just an average fucking Neanderthal, bro. Oh my God. Do you think, like, I know the highest Neanderthal percentage DNA in a person is probably, like, less than 1%. But do you think that plays a factor in strength? Who has the highest Neanderthal DNA recorded? Individuals of East Asian descent generally have the highest proportion of Neanderthal DNA, followed by European ancestry. The highest percentage somebody has is around 3%.
Estimated to be 5 sigma, or 1 in a few hundred million. But all isn't lost for humanity. There is still some genetic wizardry at play. A rare genetic case involving the LRP5 gene was discovered in a Connecticut family with bones so dense they had solid white x-rays. The family's density was measured between 2.5 and 3 grams per centimeter cube, which is 50% higher than Neanderthals and Brian Shaw. This made the bone near impossible to penetrate with typical surgical drills, and none of the degenerative effects usually associated with excessive bone growth plagued any members of the family. The only notable features they had were extra wide jaws and some bony growth on the top of their mouth. And I'd say that's a small price to pay.
He's going to say that's some small price to pay to be able to lift 1,000 pounds. What do you mean? Like, if you have this bone density, you just start having weird growths just come out of the top of your fucking, like, palate?
And I'd say that's a small price to pay. If we're going to pull a Dr. Moreau and cobble together an 8-foot human furry and make it run with 5 times its body weight, I think we're so far in that a bumpy mouth, really not a lot to worry about. Now, the odds of getting this trait organically is next to 0, let alone with all of the other features that we've insisted upon so far. But in the near future, when you're selecting your athletic destiny the way you're putting toppings on a pizza at Domino's, yeah, I'll take extra LRP5, hold the anchovies.
I love how in-depth he's getting into this. Like, I thought it would just be, like, very surface level shit. He's talking about like specific genes you need.
We know that muscles produce strength, and we've made sure that we got plenty of muscle, but we haven't quite unleashed it yet. See, your genes had the foresight to toddler-proof your body. By putting a governor on how many motor units you can recruit at once, it makes sure that you're not flying off the handle like a drunk teenager behind the wheel of his Camaro doing donuts in the parking lot. Now, with hacking your nervous system, we can start level 1. These are common genes that bias individuals towards more motivation and more aggression. But these are still more normie gene variations, are pretty common in the population. We're here to push the limits. So what does the next step look like? Level 2 involves the SCN9A gene. You might have seen this in a movie before. This is the genetic variation that makes it so that you can...
Oh my God, you don't feel pain? Well, one guy in Deadpool had that.
Not feel pain. No pain, no gain? How about no pain, all the gain? This eliminates one of the primary obstacles to training, and that is the sensation of pain and discomfort. Shoulders a little achy? Maybe for you.
Yeah, but the problem with that is pain is supposed to be a limiter for you for your health. Like, if you don't feel pain, then, like, even if this person's training, they're, like, at some point, they're going to fucking heavily injure themselves.
About to throw this bench press to the moon. You're praying to Jesus to make it through that last drop set of lunges? I'm listening to Spanish phrases on audiobook. And just think of how much money we're going to save on ibuprofen and DMSO. And we don't even have to worry about injury from tendon or muscle ruptures because we've already supercharged our specimen with tendons that could support the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, to bring this back to reality, this might not be as cool as it sounds. For one, these guys can't sweat, and that could be life-threatening in a ball-busting, do-or-die
Wait, if you don't feel pain, you can't sweat?
Gym session, which isn't great. And also, pain is kind of required to learn to not do things that might kill you. I imagine one of these...
Yeah, because then they have no idea what their limits are, and they would just always try to max out higher than they could feasibly lift.
Guys tearing...
Your pain lets you know your limit so you could push beyond it and then grow progressively. Like, if you have no pain, you don't know your limit. So yeah, you could train infinitely, but you're probably just going to fatigue yourself more than you normally would want to, and then you're just going to be out of shop for most of the time, and you're not actually going to be efficiently training. Yeah, because you can't feel hot or cold. I thought if you couldn't feel pain, you would still be able to feel hot and cold sensations. Is that literally just like your nerve endings don't work?
Ball busting deadlift workout, pouring the olive oil on the large pizza and scarfing it down as fast as they can, only to start like biting their cheek, and they can't tell the difference between cheek and pizza, and next thing you know, you chew through the side of your face. But remember, guys, we're not here for second place. You gotta risk it for the biscuit. So how about I just breed a few dozen of these 7.5-foot myostatin disabled, pain-free mutant freaks and hope that like 2 or 3 of them make it past puberty. Bob's your uncle, we're setting world records. But guys, we're not even done yet. That was only level...
Well, I want to know what you would estimate this person would lift if they had all these genes.
2. Level 3 is going to guarantee that we squeeze every possible ounce out of every single muscle fiber that we have slapped on this frame. This concerns the MAOA gene, often called the warrior gene. Now, when this thing's taking it easy, it's not doing its job, that's actually linked with higher aggression. And in extreme cases, when it's completely knocked out, you get Brunner syndrome. And while it's been associated with cognitive impairment, violent behavior, and problems with impulse control, the trade-off is, you guessed it, retard strength. I mean, look, we could have basically just manufactured our version of absolute bane, given our guy a super soaker backpack filled with trenbolone acetate, and called it good. But with Brunners, you get basically the same effect, and you just don't have to carry around the backpack. So this is what we've got: extreme height and leverages that are plausible to see in our lifetime, paired with some genetic anomalies that are less plausible. But we know that the capacity is there, and if they occur together in the right mix, we could get something that is truly mythological. But by the time we can make these genetic edits anyways, we're gonna be like the...
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're doing the odds here, but at some point they're just gonna be able to like pick and choose genetics. There's going to have to be laws against that, though, because that would be like a real dystopian society if you were able to pick genetics for your kids, because then at that point, there's like, I don't want to say there's no RNG, but like rich people would be able to just consistently spread the gap between the poor and the rich, because rich children would always be the genetically most advantaged, or have the biggest advantage, and then they would spread that to their kids and their kids and their kids. So just be like, if you were poor, you would just be rolling RNG on like your kids' health and what they would be able to do versus literally just being able to pick and choose genes. Yeah, designer babies to the sense of like making them super intelligent and super fast, super strong, attractive, whatever you wanted, literally whatever you wanted to do.
Aliens from Independence Day. All of our ability and our value to society is going to be determined by our completely man-made exoskeleton, and nobody is going to care about the body composition or strength levels of the sad little alien nugget that exists on the inside. And on that note, I'm off to go buy a robot slave. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave your comments below. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.
Wow. Somebody said literally playing God. I don't think it would be playing God, because it would be playing God if you were doing it in the designer sense of just picking and choosing traits that you deemed as most valuable. But I think if you were able to cut out genes that would cause certain health defects, I would not see that as playing God. I would see that as removing the need for thousands and thousands of years of natural selection to try and weed out a trait that is detrimental to a human experience and human life. Like, you would be able to cut out it, like, if you had a kid and they were like, this kid's gonna have is gonna grow up and he's gonna have ALS or something, it'd be like, all right, well, we're gonna cut that out so he doesn't get that. You know, we're gonna cut that out so he doesn't get this like Marfan syndrome or some sort of, like, I guess, disease, you know. But then when you extend it to, like, all right, you can make your kid whatever height you want and you can make him do this, it's like, now you're making a Sims character. All right, well, we're not watching this Mark Rober video today. We got one more video.